Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. TheSketchMonkey here. Today is a pretty special day because we're having a look at this beautiful Nissan Z Nismo, the 2024 model year. And the thing about this is, it might look like a normal Z with some other wheels and some other designs in the front and the rear, some splashes of red, but this is a completely different driving experience than the normal Z, and I'm going to show you that when we take this for a drive later on in the video. We're also going to talk about this absolutely stunning design because I feel like this has a lot of different features from a lot of different Z models throughout history mashed into one new beautiful modern piece of art. We're gonna have a look at the front end, what's different here, because I think this front end looks so much better than the normal Z. The side view with these new wheels, the rear, the interior, and then of course we're gonna take this for a drive. Let's have a walk around here and quickly have a look at what's different from the normal Z. First of all, you gotta see the front end is completely different from what we have on the normal Z. We have these wings sticking up in the sides here, looking great. We have, of course, the same headlights unit as the normal Z, the red accents for the Nismo model, but the biggest change is gonna happen in the grille, and I think this looks so much better than the squared off grille that we have in the normal Z, which looks a little bit too static for me. This has a lot more interesting details going on. I also like how it is an angle here now instead of having it be cut off in a straight line like this. Of course, Nismo badges all around this car. The front end, I think they did just a fantastic job separating this from the normal Z. Let me know what you think about the front end, if you prefer the normal Z front end or the Nismo like we have here. In the side view, we do have new wheels, 19-inch forged Ray wheels with 255 tires in the front, 285s in the rear. These are absolutely fat rear tires, and I do think the black actually looks great in this case. I want to have these black wheels. I love the design, look very race car-ish to me, looking great. Looking at the rear end, we do have, of course, these taillights. Let's turn them on so you can see what the taillights actually look like. I'm sure you know already, but these switches off automatically after a while. So check these out. What do these remind you of? If you look at the design here, they definitely look to me like a straight modernization of the Nissan 300ZX. There's a lot of features on this car that we're going to talk about more in detail that feels like they took, as I said in the intro, it feels like they took the best of the Z lineup and the design features of the Z lineup and just applied it into this car. I think it's such a cool idea and a overall great design. Even the normal regular Z looks fantastic. Under the hood, we do have a 3-liter twin turbocharger. You can definitely feel that it is turbocharged when you're driving this V6, 420 horsepower, 384 pound-feet of torque. And the thing is, yes, you only get this with the automatic transmission, which might be surprising to some. It is pretty surprising that it didn't offer the 6-speed manual in this. The fuel economy comes in at 17 city, 25 highway, 0 to 60 is done in 3.9 seconds with a top speed of 155 miles per hour. And the price for this is $65,000. Now you might think that that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. It is a lot of money. If you think about the new 350, the old 350Z, when that first came out, I do believe that was in 2003, it was the same price as this if you count in inflation. However, $65,000 today just feels more expensive than what I think $39,000 felt like back in 2003. But I love this car for so many reasons, and I would definitely consider this if I were in the market for a sports car for $65,000. And I'm gonna let you know exactly why throughout this video. It has to do with the more old school vibe and the raw feel that we get in this car. Let's close this back up and let's talk about this beautiful, stunning design. As I said, we have a lot of features from old Z models. For example, I'm gonna try and show you this crease in the hood, which is identical to the one that we had in the 240Z, and I do think the overall proportions is definitely more 240Z than any other car. You also have the headlights, which has a shape to it. If you look at it from a side, it has a very pretty sharp shape, but if you come down and look at it from a straight front view, you can see that it creates a circle, and that is also reminiscent of the original 240Z. We have some nice lines here. I do love this line from the side. You can see it fades here and cutting into the hood, and then fades right as it comes up on the hood, but creates a very sharp line in the side. We're gonna have a look at that in just a minute. And then of course this new grille that we just talked about, all open at the very bottom. Sensors integrated as well, Nismo badges, radar, probably this piece, Nissan badge up top, the new Nissan logo that I think looks very, very clean. Now coming around to the side view here, we have the same proportions again. Coming back to the 240Z, this sharp line that we have going right here over the roof reminds me a lot. This looks like a proper modernized 240Z to me, and I love that they put this line up here on the roof line to emphasize that that was the intention of the designers, to have this sharp line and then just put a graphic feature to really hammer in that line is essential to the proportions of this car. Now talking about these wheels, as I said, usually I'm not a huge fan of black wheels, but in this case we have a staggered setup. You can see just how deep these wheels sit. It looks fantastic. 19-inch race forged aluminum wheels here, 285s in the rear, really plants this car properly onto the ground. 255s in the front end. Overall, just this wheel and tire setup on this car, fantastic. It looks great on this specific car. We also have the blacked out side mirrors here with some red Nismo accents coming back here. I think this is actually a sticker. So I guess if you wanted to take this off, you can actually do that. You have the indicator integrated in the side mirror as well. Now looking at the line flow here, as I've said, this line that we talked about in the front end, the fades up here on the hood, dips down beautifully, goes into the door handle, which has this Z-style door handle, and then fades into this big muscle over the rear end. So we have two key lines here that goes downwards. We have this line right here that we just talked about, and then you have this line at the bottom as well, carving out some of this volume that we have in the lower section, with the new side skirt for the Nismo being blacked out with the red accents as well. And I love the Z logo, the old style 60s and 70s Z logo coming back here. This has a $1,500 paint option. I'm not sure if I would go, I'm not sure if this is worth $1,500. I would like to have it in white. No sunroof up here. Great job to not include that on the Nismo. Coming back to the rear end here, very, very clean. Again, we have some different features here compared to the normal Z. We have this wing, for example, that is specific for the Nismo, and we have the blacked out graphics in the midsection of the Z looking great. You have the camera located right next to the Nissan logo, and they also added the Z badge back here. More Nismo badges and a brand new diffuser that has an opening here on the side for some air to flow out from. Reflector lights, more red graphics in the lower section, and dual exhaust. That sounds fantastic. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think this looks better than the normal Nissan Z? I definitely do. I do think all these added small features and details onto the Z transforms the car, specifically when you look at the front end opening, the grille in the front. As I'm sure you know, this Nissan Z has a lot in common with the previous generation, the 370Z. You can definitely see that in this interior, and I don't mind that one bit. It feels maybe a little weird to pay $65,000 when you recognize so many old pieces in here. I do believe, for example, this door handle is maybe from 350Z, and so is this vent, but they're still functional and they still do their job. Looking at the door here, we do have some Alcantara and the normal buttons for the windows, automatic up and down. Pretty straightforward stuff and a pretty simplistic door. We have this beautiful Z logo illuminated at night. Small details like this just add up to the overall more special feel for this car. So let's jump in here and let's fire this up. Thankfully the sun is coming out, which means that it's getting a little toasty in here. Look at all these classic old AC controls that we have in here. And I think that I like to think of it like this. It might sound very ridiculous, but I like to think of it like this. You're paying $65,000 to have more of an old school feel that doesn't really exist in a lot of new cars today. And this definitely has this old school feel that I personally want to have in cars and wish they still existed. They do in some cars, the Toyota Giro Corolla, Honda Civic Type R, and this Nissan Z, the standard model as well, and the Nismo, of course. You have this old vibe to it, even though everything is digital. This gauge cluster still has a beautiful housing to it. All the settings that you have on the side, you can check them out and figure out what you want to change here. If you want to change anything, you can do that. And also these different designs. We're now in sport. You can have it in normal, which has more of a classic layout with a tachometer and speedometer in more of a traditional layout, or you can have it in this weird enhanced mode, which I'm not a huge fan of. It just looks way too complex for me. You can change whatever you want in the middle section here as well. So personal display, let's go into that. Let me show you exactly what you can do here. Trip, you can change all these features. So the good thing about this is that it is 100% configurable to whatever you want in this car. I also love these old gauges up here. I used to have a 200 SX, and this just reminds me of that type of, it brings me back. You have the boost gauge, the turbo speed gauge, and the volt for the battery up there, facing the driver with these beautiful small caps on top. You have two vents here, and you have this rather decently sized infotainment screen. Look at the integration of this. We have no screens sticking up anywhere. This is just inside of the panel itself, and this is what I love about this car. It feels like it has modern technology with old school styling, and that is the sweet spot for me when it comes to car design these days. And that is one of the reasons why I would consider this if I was buying a car in this price range. And also, of course, the driving characteristics of this car, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You have wireless Apple CarPlay here and a bunch of different settings here as well. The map, not very, it doesn't look very modern to me, but it works. Further down, as we talked about, these beautiful little toggles or dials for the temperature. Very, very easy to adjust and figure out what it is you want to do there. You don't have a wireless charger here though. I do wish we did have a wireless charging pad here, but you do have a USB-C and a USB port. Start button, drive modes. You have 3 different drive modes. You have standard, sport, and sport plus. We're obviously going to keep it in sport plus when we take this for a drive. I would honestly not mind if this car just came standard with one setting, and that would be sport plus all the time. The gear selector, pretty standard stuff. You put it in drive, down and down again, and you go into manual mode with these paddles on the side. Putting it into reverse is of course going to give you the rear view camera, which this is one detail that I would probably want to have a little bit more high resolution for $65,000. This just looks very grainy. I'm not sure if that is an Escalade back there or if it's a rock. I can't really see that based on this screen alone, so that's something I want to update. You have a couple of blank buttons here and the trunk opening. A cup holder here, you might wonder, only one cup holder, but if you slide this back, it's going to reveal a second cup holder here. You can also open up this armrest. This is another old school feature, a good old analog e-brake, and this is great. I've missed these. I don't like these small little toggles. Looking at the steering wheel, beautiful steering wheel here with the red accents up top for the center position of the steering wheel, and the Z, the old, no, not a Nissan logo in the middle. You have a Z logo here. Beautiful. You also have some settings for the cruise control on the right side, settings for the gauge cluster configuration, and the volume control for the radio with these paddles. That has a very solid and distinct click to them. I love having this in manual. When I drive this, I just keep thinking that I want to take this to a track. On the left side of the steering wheel, there's the stock for the light settings and the wiper settings on the right side. Another detail on the interior that is different from the normal Z are the seats. Just look at how beautiful these seats are. Fantastic looking Recaro seats. Nismo up top, red in the middle, and they're very thin. However, look at the bolstering here. There is no way you're gonna slide around in the corners in these beautiful seats. And as we talked about on the exterior portion, we don't have a sunroof. So opening up the trunk here, you just press a button underneath the Nissan logo like that, and it opens up. It's a decent space here. You can fit a couple of suitcases in here. You do have a first aid kit and a cargo net if you ever need to use that. I like that this brace is now all the way in the front end instead of having it be in this area. It's time for the fun stuff. Let's take the 2024 Nissan Z Nismo for a drive, and let me show you what this is all about. So let's start in standard here. We have 3 drive modes: standard, sport, and sport plus. Starting in standard and in automatic. Thing about the Nismo is, even in standard, it is still very raw and rough on the roads, and that's a good thing, because some people complain about that. It feels too rough and too harsh on the road, even in standard. But why are you buying a Nismo product if that's not what you're looking for? So let's pop it. Let's just go into Sport Plus. I have the windows cracked a little bit so you can hear what's going on here. And let's put it in manual. Let's slow down here. No one behind us now, so let's come to a stop. First gear, and let's go. Oh yeah, it goes. It definitely goes. Got some wheel tire spin there, even though traction control is of course on. I'm not gonna turn that off. We have the shift lights on the gauge cluster. It sounds so good. Downshifts are fantastic. Even though it doesn't come with a 6-speed manual, this Mercedes-sourced gearbox 9-speed auto is just a joy to drive. Just listen to that noise. Oh wow. This is the reason why $65,000, yes, it's a lot of money, but man, is this fun to drive. It feels totally different. I had the Nissan Z when it first came out. I had that for a week as well. And I thought that was a, raw sports car, but this is different. This is like a different car driving this compared to the normal Z. The handling, oh, yes. Oh man, I love this car. I love it. You know what this feels like? I drove the Huracan Evo a while back here on the channel and made a review on that. And the rawness of that car. This feels like a mini Huracan Evo. It's not as raw, of course, it's not as quick, 420 horsepower, still very quick though, 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. And on roads like this is just as fun as a Huracan Evo, for sure, if not more, because you know that you're not driving a $250,000 to $300,000 car. Nissan definitely knows what they're doing when it comes to sports cars. Shifts are super quick. You have the crackling on the downshifts. It's the entire package. It's everything you're looking for in a sports car. So the driving characteristic, the dynamics of this car, spot on. That's one of the reasons why I would consider this car for $65,000. The second reason is the interior layout. I love the nostalgic feel that I get from this interior with the traditional e-brake here. The gauge is up there, looking nice, looking the old school JDM feel or style that you want in a car like this. And you have a gauge cluster that is digital, but you have it inside of a cap, inside of a standard looking gauge cluster. I could drive this car forever. On roads like this, I would never get bored of this car.